My name is Dave. I've been woodworking since I was like 10 years old. So, uh, not turning that long, but doing a lot of woodworking. I do metalworking. I built an airplane with my hands for like ever. Um, Unfortunately, they were scraping the bottom of the barrel looking for demonstrators and came up with me somehow, twisted my arm. So I will show you some of the things that I've done with pen turning. If you remember the Coomer museum project, the pens that you're seeing on the screen or had seen on the screen were for that project. I've made 30, 40, I don't even know how many pens out of live oak. And live oak is not my favorite wood to turn with, but it it is what it is. Um, so turning pens starts out with pen kits. Here's two examples of pen kits. I'll pass them around. Uh, there are basically two sorts of pen refills. There's one by Cross, which is the real skinny, narrow one, and there's one by uh, Parker. Yes, the fat one. I'll pass those around. When you uh, when you buy the pen kits, they'll either come with a data sheet or you need to print a data sheet that goes along with each of them. And that will come in the pen kit usually if you buy them onesies, twosies. If you want to, you can buy in bulk 10, 12, or 30 at a time. And then you generally don't get the instructions, but you can print them. Can you start the PowerPoint? There we go. So there are the parts of the pen. There's the cap. There's the, thank you. Okay. There's the cap. There's the clip. There's the rear tube. I call it the top tube. There's a band that separates the top and the bottom. Inside of the pen, there's a twist mechanism that's used to push the point in and out of the tip. And then there's the front tube or the bottom tube and the tip itself. The first pen I showed you was a single tube pen. This is a double tube. When you buy the kits, be sure to buy the appropriate bushing set. If you all don't already have them, print out the instructions or look at the keep the data set for each pen. Pen blanks are available for sale at places like Penn State Industries or Craft Supply, but they're kind of expensive. If you want to grab a board, a 3/4 inch board, and cut it into 3/4 inch strips, and you have your own blanks. You don't have to buy, $5, $6, $7, $10 blanks. You can get the blanks for pennies instead. If you need to cut them up, bandsaws work great, table saws work great. If you don't have one of those things, one of the mentors will be happy to help you, including me. Believe it or not, I'm a mentor. So how do you prepare a blank? I think it's important to keep the grain of the wood consistent through a pen. Top of the pen, bottom of the pen. I want the grain to match when those two pieces come together. So when I make a blank, can you go to the top? What I do is size the blank so that the pen tubes will fit, mark the center, and then I draw a mark down the other center so that, there you go. Okay. so that when it comes, after you cut it in half and drill it, you'll know how to put it back together to turn your pen. So that's an example of one that's getting ready to be cut. After they're cut, there are two ways. There are two ways to drill the holes. You can either use a chuck in your lathe, when you drill, it's important to go it's important to go through the center outwards. So you want to drill, you've just marked it, you've cut it. Now you want to drill from the center out. The reason I do that is twofold, or at least onefold. The drill bits tend to wander occasionally in the grain with the grain of the wood. So if it wanders, you want it to wander towards the tip. You want it to wander out toward the tip and not through the center. The kit I'm using for this demonstration is called the trim line, which uses a 7mm drill bit. This is a real soft wood, but if you're using a hardwood, you really do want to clear your drill shavings. Otherwise, it'll cause it to wander even more. Oh, that was my only 7mm bit, too. It did. It sure did. Wow. I love live demos. Now this one didn't wander at all, but I have examples. Yeah, I know. So that's one way to drill. Harold, there's another video that I sent you. Okay. I really like this, and I'd show you how it works if I had a drill bit. This works with your drill press. And what you do is you put your drill bit in your drill press, and you close the vise on your drill bit so that perfectly lines up the center of your vise with your drill press head. You clamp this down on your drill press table, and now you have a stable way to drill any number of holes, and they'll all be perfectly centered. And you can do this in groups. So you do 10 blanks or however many you're going to do. I actually have a short video here of marking the blank in both directions, so you have the center. Well, the center doesn't matter vertically, but you clamp the bit in the drill press, which makes sure that it's centered. Lock it down with the vise or clamps. This is a much, I don't know, I just like this a whole lot better. And again, it's really important, I think, to drill from the center of the two blanks towards the outside edge. Clean your bit Go a little bit at a time. They will not get, well, you'd be surprised. They do get really gummed up, especially if you have exotic woods, hardwoods. This stuff is really, really soft. Okay, so this is the preferred method of drilling your blanks. Okay, thank you. Okay, here's a example of drill bits that have wandered, and also an acrylic, a blank that has kind of wallowed out. And if it wallows out, you're going to have a very hard time getting a nice pen out of it, because there will be a gap between the brass barrel and an air gap to the blank. If it turns sideways, sometimes the drill has a mind of its own. It goes back, I don't know, but mostly it's sideways. Yeah, yeah. I do. I use brad point bits. I You can use any bit you want, but I've found that the brad point bits work pretty good until they break. And that 7 is used a lot. When? So the gray plastic bit is the one that's wallowed out. After you prepare the blanks, get them drilled out properly, you're going to insert the brass tubes. First thing I do with the brass tube is put them on a mandrel. I use 80 grit sandpaper and make them and give them tooth, scuff them up so that your epoxy or CAA will hold better. Can we go back to the slide, Harold? I prefer the presentation, yeah. You can use CA glue if you want, but CA glue has a couple of problems, a few problems. The first is it's very thin, so it doesn't really fill the gaps, any gaps you might have between the pen blank and the barrel itself, so there could be gaps in it. If you don't push the pen tube into the blank fast enough, that happens. The pen tube sticks out of the end of the blank and you're done. There's nothing you can do to fix that other than to turn all of the blank off and get another blank. And I've done that several times. There we go, a solution to that problem.
I found out by mistake. I was like, I'm throwing these away. I'm like, just cut it off. Try it. And it wasn't perfect.
There you go. That's an excellent solution to that.
It's always a different one. Everybody has.
I'm sorry.
Everybody has a different.
Yeah. No, this should be interactive. If you have any questions at all or suggestions, please pass them on, because I'm totally self-taught on this, and believe me, I've stumbled through all of these issues. The other problem that I have with CA glue is when you reach the finishing process, there's heat involved. You want to polish with friction. There's a lot of sandpaper. CA glue, if you get it hot enough, it fails, and your blank will move on the pen tube and destroy your project there too. So CA is fast, and you can get them done really quick. But I'm not a big fan. I prefer 5 minute epoxy, and I let it sit overnight generally, unless I'm in a real hurry. Um, so 5 minutes is great. Yeah. No, we'll get to that too. Yeah, we'll get to that too. Matter of fact, I'm going to do a demo on that. Yeah.
I missed the key word there. Are you saying when you're using CA glue, you
I'm saying don't use CA glue.
don't? Oh, okay.
Unless you have a really good reason to do it. I personally think it's got more problems than it's worth. If you need to make 20 pens by tomorrow, then you got no choice. But if you have the time and the patience, I think you'll be more happy with epoxy, 5 minute epoxy. I do let it set up a little bit, but you can probably get by within half an hour or whatever. Okay, when you glue up, here's an example of some blanks that are blue, that are pretty rough, that I've just glued the pen barrel in, and that's all. I haven't cleaned them up at all. That's what they look with. When I have this tool, this magic tool that I really love, oh dear, it's a tapered, what the heck is it called? Tapered something like that. No, it's not at all. It's specifically for pen making. Pen tube insertion tool. What you do is put your pen tube on the end of this tool, and it gives you a way to spread the epoxy without getting it all over the place. It also allows you to stick the pen tube in. Uh-oh, there's something wrong with this one. It allows you to stick the pen tube in as it's glued, and you can pull the tool out so that the tube stays in, but you can still get your tool out. When you're inserting a tube, again, always do it from the middle towards the tip. What you want to do is have the end of the tube very close to the center of the blank itself. That way, your grain is going to match up much better when you get the pen finished. So you want to keep everything as close to the center as you can. And use this. Is really great. If you get epoxy on it or something, you can scrape it off with a razor blade. What I like to do when I put epoxy is I put epoxy on about the first quarter to the first half of the tube, and then when I insert, I slowly turn the tube until it gets flush with the center. That way you don't want to get epoxy inside the tube. So don't pull the tube out and push it back in again, because you will get epoxy inside the tube and it's a pain in the butt to get out. So there's another little tip. So after you get to the point that I just passed out, oh dear. Oh, I'm sorry, they're right here. Notice that when I cut this blank in half, I colored the center so I know exactly where it is. So when I'm turning, after I turn this blank down, I'll still know where the center is and how the grain goes back together. So this example has been trimmed to the tube length. And there's another tool. This is the one that, quite frankly, when I was asked to do this demo, I got this out again and I said, well, I'll try it one more time, because I really did not like this tool when I first got it. Barrel trimming tool. What I've been doing with the hundreds of pens that I've done is I take them to my stationary belt sander and I just very carefully sand the ends until I just see the brass start to show, and then I stop. But I tried this in preparation for this class, and I really kind of like it now. What you do is you take your blank and you put it in a vise, and you put this deal well, no, I don't like it in the drill press, because these are not straight necessarily. If you clamp this in something and try and drill it in a drill press, it doesn't move at all. Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that, because you can't get it back in the same orientation. And these are not ever, well, they might be, some of them might be straight, but the ones I have are not. They're all crooked and bent and whatever. So I put these in a vise and I use my drill by hand. And I've found you have to really kind of lean on this thing too. But apparently it has a dull edge right in the very, very center, so it doesn't bite into the brass too bad. Sometimes it does. In the drill press, that's what problem I had, is I was going too deep through the pen barrel, the pen barrel, instead of stopping where it should have. So I much prefer putting it in a vise and by hand using this tool to get it to the point where I can start turning it. Yeah. Yep. If you have CA or epoxy, and there's also a sharp edge that you can use to get that stuff out. Ah, I've never seen that one. Oh, okay. Yeah. Deburring tool, sure. Yep. So now that you've got your two blanks trimmed properly, let's see, I better check my notes, excuse me. Yeah, barrel trimming tool. There are two different mandrels that you can use. Oh dear, how do I? Yeah. Got it. Thank you. So there are two different types of mandrels that I personally have to turn pens on. This one on top is about a $19 tool, 20 bucks. You can get these pretty cheap. And what you do is I've got one kind of started here. Yes, this is the one that's in the kit. These are pen bushings, and they're well used. If you, as you can see, the purple stuff, and they're all different colors. So you put a spacer on, you put a pen blank on, you put the center spacer on. That's this one. Another. Excuse me. What did I say? I'm sorry. It's a bushing. And, and then you. I didn't try that. This is adjustable, and I'd have to. We'll pretend there's a spacer on there, or a bushing on there. Then you tighten this brass nut down. This goes in your headstock. Do we have a live set? Then the end of this mandrel has a hole in it so that it can center. So now you can spin your pen blanks. I've turned these round just to save a little time. That's the first mandrel. I'm going to pass this around. I don't like this one. I don't like it for a couple of reasons. First of all, you have to stop the lathe to tighten this brass nut down. First of all. Second of all, this thing is relatively long, and it can whip a little bit. And as it whips, you'll get vibrations and chattering. And so it's not my favorite, but it's cheaper. The one that I use has its own live center with a hole in it. And so you connect it.
Here's your knockout bar. You got to get rid of that.
No. Oh, yeah, I do. So you put an in bushing on, you put the actual blank, another bushing, and the blank. Okay, and I did this wrong. I chose this to be my top piece. I always, always, always have the top on the left-hand side. You don't have to do that, but it helps me remember which way the pen is pointed. Center bushing, and then the last blank. Normally there would be another bushing on here. So now, when I turn these two blanks, if they start to spin or they're not grabbing right, all I have to do, oh, thank you. All I have to do is tighten the tailstock. That's exactly what I do when I use the tailstock to do a bowl or a box or whatever. So it also reinforces my turning memory, if you will. I don't know. You know what? I have turned a whole lot of trimline pens, and I just noticed this afternoon that my bushings are starting to mushroom on the ends. I've never noticed that before. So I suspect that you can turn them too tight, and perhaps I have. It could. Oh, that one it could. This one it won't, because you're pushing you're not pushing on the rod, you're pushing on the actual blanks. So I think it's worth the investment to do this.
I think it's about $40, and that one's like $20. If you're going to do a lot of pens, get the right tools.
Yep. This they come with the MT2 on both sides, so they'll fit all your lathes or almost all your lathes. So now, what I like to do, is start on the end of the blank and work the end of the blank until I'm extremely close to the bushing. Remember, the bushing is your measuring tool. I've got a 3/8 bull gouge. You know, I hate to say it, but because it could be blasphemy, but you can use carbide to do this too. Especially when you get really close to the bushings. Yeah, see this blank is really garbage. It's got an inclusion at the end. Okay, and so when I get close to the diameter that I want in the center and at the tips, it's just a matter of shaping the blank to a pleasing profile. And again, I want to make sure that the ends are real close to the bushing diameter. And I know I shouldn't have done this, but I brought live oak. What's that? But that's the other thing that I like about turning pens is that it's really not dangerous. You can crank this thing up as fast as you want, and faster is usually better when you're turning, and not be worried about a piece coming off or, you know, whatever. Yes, you should. Where's the safety officer? And I don't know. I'm not going to finish this. I'm just going to get it close. I start with 150 sandpaper, and I sand right up next to the bushing until I can't feel a ridge between the blank and the bushing. I got to do something with that. Uh, it really doesn't matter. Fast as you can when you're cutting, and then slow it down when you're sanding. It just keeps the dust down a little bit. At home, I have this is a, what, a 10-inch or so tool rest. I can't get it in close enough to do this properly. I have a narrow one, you know, a 6-inch or a 4-inch even, that I use mostly. We have a robust at home, and we also have a small Rikon, and I do all the pen stuff on the Rikon because you don't need the horsepower, and it just feels better somehow. Sorry, Don. You see, I can't get in close enough to do this properly. Well, that's close enough. Yeah, it's fine. So you go through the sandpaper. I start with 150. I go to 220. Ouch. And at 220, I stop and I look at the blank because I'll have radial sandpaper marks in it, sanding lines. And you switch and go with the grain. What's that? Oh, sorry. And then I'll go to 320. And pretend I do a lot of that. And then again, get the radial marks out of it. It really doesn't take that much. All right. And I might go to 400 depending on the wood. And I want it to be smooth. I don't want there to be any ridge between the bushing and the pen blank. And there is here, but it's kind of close. This blank, you can tell, has got a huge defect in it. It won't make a very nice pen. Okay, now at this point, and I am far from being an expert on this, but on some of the pens, I've started using a Sorby knurling tool. And I really kind of like this because it gives a really nice effect. I think we want it at about 500. And what I do is put it at a slight angle to the workpiece. I don't know what that is, 15 degrees, maybe 10 degrees. And I carefully God, this wood is so hard. Oh, yay. Turned out. So now we have, this is a form of embellishment. I have, what I've done is put some cross hatches in there. I've got a triangle tool that I got as part of a set from these guys, Thompson Tools. Thompson Tools at the symposium had 4 tools or something like that for like $150. It was a really, really good deal. This is about probably 3, 4 years ago. And I, yeah, yeah, and yeah, and I bought extra handles because I don't want to screw around. But okay, there you get an idea of what I've got going there. I put a pencil mark on because I'm going to delineate that crosshatch with a small line. Turn it up. Yep. And that to me, it just makes it look a little nicer. Now I'll use some 320. And just sand it a little bit. Okay, so that's just one way you can embellish your pens. I've used this before to put concentric circles at different places, and it's just whatever your imagination can do. I've got it pretty much finished sanded, so it's ready to finish. There are 2 different finishes that I personally use. One is this Pens Plus, which is a wipe-on finish for wood, and you just put it on a cloth, wipe it on, wait half an hour, put another coat on, wait a half hour, put another coat on, and after you get 5 or 6 coats, you get a real glossy pen. Or if you're really crazy, you can put on CA glue as a finish. CA glue is nice because it gives a super high gloss plastic finish that's impervious. So this is going to get a little stinky. All right, now putting this stuff on, putting this stuff on is really an art form, and I'm not sure that I have the art form, but I'll show you what I do. I also use Nick Agar's wood dye in different colors. It's really nice stuff, and you can't get it anymore as far as I know. But this comes in a spray can, so you can just spray it on the wood, and you're done. You're done with it. You can spray it in such a way. I guess I can try this. I'll spray it on that one. And you let it dry a little bit. And you can mix the colors together. And it gives a really cool effect. But if you get too much on, then you have a problem too. Now I'm not going to put CA glue on that because you gotta let it dry. Otherwise it just creates a heck of a messy mess. But I will put it on this blank piece, or try to. Well, you don't want it spinning too fast, maybe 900, 1,000 RPM, something like that. And can you see me? What I do is this is medium viscosity, I believe. Pretty sure this is medium. And I put a line of medium on, and then that's it. Just kind of touch it and go away. You don't want to rub it on there or mess with it too much, because what's going to happen is it'll dry on you. It sets so quick that your oops your glue will set really fast and suck in your paper towel and make another mess. Then this is activator, which makes CA glue dry instantly. I use it in between coats of CA glue. Okay, so then I turn 180 degrees. Another dribble of CA glue on and off. You don't. And it's a mess. It's an absolute. That's why my bushings are all purple and yellow and. But what? Yeah, but you got to be careful of sanding the bushing down too much too, because that's your measurement device. So that's two coats. Three coats. And I don't know if you have to wipe this actuator off between coats or not, but it's something that I do just in case. Another coat of CA glue. And notice how fast I just, that's all I'm going to do. Yeah, pass those around. These, and they're all rejects, by the way, too. If you look at those, you'll find imperfections in all of them. Yeah. Okay. Now, when you sand this, I'm starting with 320. Well, you should be doing that too, but you watch the sandpaper and make sure that the sandpaper is always white. You never want to see any sawdust through it. If you see sawdust on the sandpaper, you've gone too deep, and that's not a good thing. If need be, and I screwed one up this afternoon. You can sand it down farther. Go through. I actually made one that had Nick Agar's dye on it, and went down into the dye, and it creates white spots and it looks terrible. But I sanded all the dye off and started over again. I'm sorry, I got to turn this on. Does that completely wipe you out? Well, I'm sorry, I got to see the, yeah. Okay, when you get to the right place in sanding, you'll see the super glue. First of all, there'll be high spots and low spots in the super glue, and if you get to the right spot when you're sanding, all of those lines go away, and you get a uniform it's a fuzzy finish, if you will. It's a matte finish, but it's uniform. And this one is not going to be perfect, but it is what it is. And this 220, Where's the 400? Here we go. Now I'm going down to 400. And if you want to, you can wet sand this, which keeps your sandpaper in a little bit cleaner state. I think that's a defect in the wood. Yeah, it is. Okay. So I've got this sanded down to 400. You could take it down farther if you wish. The next step is the diamond white polishing compound. This stuff is just awesome. I've got probably 100 or 150 pens done, and that's how much I've used right there. That little tiny bit lasts forever. And you just rub it across your piece. And then take a paper towel. And this is the part that generates heat. This is the step that generates heat. Now, the other thing that happens is you glue your stuff together. So you have to break the bushings off. A lot of times the bushing, or I mean, the ends of your finished blank will have a lip on it. I'm going to leave it on there. And that needs to be sanded off. Yeah, you just kind of rub the CA glue on some. You know, that one's not even close to perfect. There's a flaw above the embellishment, but you get the idea. You can make a very high quality finish. And how long did that take? The CA glue, I mean, it's minutes to do a CA glue finish. Okay, this is the top barrel. This is the clip, and this is the cap. So I put them together top to bottom, but you can do it any way you want. The cap has a little chamfer on it so that you can start it for free without trouble. Yes, yes. You're giving away all my secrets. Yep. Okay, try and get everything straight in your vise. You can do this in a regular vise. You can do it, I suppose you could even do it with a hammer if you had to. You can do it in the lathe, but all you do is squeeze it together. It's a press fit, and now you've got the top of your pen done. There you go. There's a million ways to do it. There you go. Now that's the bottom part of it. Now this is a little bit tricky. You have to make sure that you get it pressed in far enough, but not too far. So I start by pressing the twist mechanism. Oops. Just past the brass part. Oops, see, it's going sideways. Don't go sideways. Right about there. Then I assemble the pen and twist until I see the point. Now you can tell that that point isn't out quite far enough, I hope. Can you zoom in? It's not far enough out to write properly. So I'm going to press it, take the refill out, use the press to press it in just a little bit more. Reassemble, and now the tip of the pen is perfectly where it should be. You twist it and it goes in where it should be and not going to leak in your pocket. All of these pens come, as near as I can tell, come with a protective covering on the ball itself. So you use your fingernail or whatever to clean off the tip, and then it should write. But what is this called? I forget what it's called. Push them together and you've got an assembled pen. The center band. These pen kits, for 12 of them, it's $30. So is that right? 12 for $30. I think that's what it is at Penn State. So the kits are extremely cheap. If you make your own blanks, they're pennies as well. So what do you do with this stuff after these pens after you've got them done? I'm sure none of you have a regular doctor that you go to, but mine really appreciates a pen. I gave him one and he really liked it. You can give them to friends, family, visitors that come over. Hey, what do you do on the lathe? Oh, do this. You want it? Now it's done. Any questions?